you are the perfect people to talk about this, because you both, even though you had different careers, you were both preparing for your post-professional career while you were still playing, right? Yeah. Where do you even start? How do you do that? How do you have time to do any of that?
Yeah, I mean, you really have to be intentional about it. I think for me, it was two parts. So when I came out of college, as you guys can tell, I'm not the biggest guy, right? But when I came out of college, I didn't have a bunch of people beating down my door to play professional football, so it essentially ended for me. And that was a tough moment for me, because it's like you've done something your entire life, and you expect to be able to affect that thing, whether it's sports and football specifically, and that wasn't the case. So when I got lucky enough and things happened for me to kind of revive my playing career, I was just laser focused. So I kind of had the answers to the test, and every moment that I wasn't on the field, I was trying to prepare for my future so that the next time that football stopped for me, I wouldn't be sitting there with my palms up again.
And Carli, you had something similar, right?
Yeah, I mean, I was not pegged as the next best thing coming out of college, and didn't go to a big name college soccer school. So I really had to work for everything that I've achieved. And I think that it's humbling. It makes you work harder, makes you dig deeper. And my initial focus when I first started on the national team was to be the best soccer player in the world. And with that came an intentional focus, drive, dedication, all of that. And since I was able to do that on the field, off the field, it just spoke for itself. And I was able to kind of, start some business endeavors, start my own clinics. But the first half of my career, I wasn't really thinking retirement. I wasn't really thinking, what am I going to do after soccer? Because at that point, you think you're going to play forever, and that's definitely not the case. But as I got towards the middle of my career, when social media became really prevalent, I started to just live and be as authentic as I could, and build my brand the way that I wanted everybody to view it, which is my true self.
How do you guys decide, though? Because I imagine you had a lot of people coming to you with opportunities to do different things post-professional career. How do you decide what's actually worth your time and what's going to be valuable 10 years out from playing?
That's a great question. I think for me, it was just following passions, right? Like, I feel like as athletes and coming up in sports, you're kind of forced to be in all these different worlds, and you collect a skill set, you collect a knowledge base. And for any opportunity that comes to me, I'm always focused on how can I affect it? What about this is unique to me and my own experience? I don't try to do things that I don't think that I know or that I don't care about, to be honest. And I think the fact that I drill into that differentiation of, like, this is what makes me me, and me being a part of this is the greater opportunity, I think helps me kind of make 1 + 1 = 3 when those opportunities come.
And you went to business school, too.
I did. I went and got my master's degree from Columbia while I was playing. And honestly, it was just more of an opportunity. When I got done playing the first time and I was trying to, peddle my resume or get conversations or get people to send me emails back, it was hard, as you would imagine, because we're all trying to network and do this. And I understood that, there are 20,000 plus people who can say they're former NFL players, or there's another 100,000 that say they were former college football players. There was only 2 that can say, hey, I'm the starting receiver of the Cleveland Browns, would love to have lunch, or want to send you a signed jersey. And I understood that the opportunity was going to end, and that people would remember how I treated them when I didn't need them, when I did need them after I got done. And so college was the same thing. I went back and got my master's for that same purpose, that I understood I couldn't go around the country and have conversations one-on-one for people to say, hey, you seem pretty smart for a football player or an NFL player. But I knew if I can go to a great school, have great grades, then people could see that, and I could put it on a resume, and they would understand, okay, this guy does have the intellectual capabilities to do things beyond just catching a football.
Carli, what's an example of that for you, like post-professional career?
Yeah, I mean, along the same lines, I think it's all about how you treat people, and the way that I approached my playing career. Off the field, I approached it the same. I mean, just very diligent, very intentional, teaming up with partners and sponsors, and aligning myself with things that I believe in, and things that, resonate with who I am as a person and a player. And I think it's all about the relationships you form, a simple hello and a 1 minute, 2 minute, conversation to just ask a person how they're doing, may translate into a business opportunity down the road. So I think it's just vitally important, and I've always just been very focused, off the field as I was on the field. So for me, it's just about building those relationships and just constantly trying to evolve, reading books. I didn't go to business school. I'm a little behind on that, but that's incredible. And it's just about learning to grow and become better. Always just kind of seeking out, ways that I can become a better person.
And I wonder, were there skills too that you took from playing that have sort of benefited you as you guys have gone on to different endeavors? I mean, of course, football, soccer, different if you're, working for Status Pro and you're developing tech. But I wonder if there's some like mental capacity that you were able to translate from your time on the field.
I mean, I'll let you go first.
Absolutely. I graduated college. I owe everything to the soccer ball. I mean, soccer has just given me just so much knowledge on just how to navigate through life, the ups and downs, the challenges. Nothing's ever handed to you. You have to be accountable. The sky's the limit. And I've learned so much from playing the sport, from failing, from getting knocked down, getting back up again. It's incredible, and that's why I want to pass that knowledge on to others, and the next generation of players. And when my husband and I have future kids, it's all about those lessons, and I can't be any more grateful than being able to have played and learned so much through the sport.
Yeah.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, for what we do at Status Pro, we always like to say we're democratizing what it feels like to be an athlete, and we're a sports tech company that acts like an athlete, because all of those intangibles, I think, do help us even beyond what we do around the sport of football, basketball, what have you. And so we say things like the people who work for us, besides the fact that we do have a number of former athletes as well that work with us at Status Pro, you don't need to be an athlete, but you do have to have those same sensibilities. You need to play fast. You need to be competitive. Don't second guess yourself. You prepare, but you let it go, right? The effort is always there. And those are things that you have to learn to become a high-level athlete beyond, whether it's college, whether it's professional, and also as an employee or in this competitive space. If you have those same attributes, you can put yourself in a really good position to be successful.
Do you think it's more challenging now for younger athletes to think about all of these things? I mean, considering, NIL, right? There's so many ways that young athletes can profit, right, very early on. Is it difficult to keep your mind sort of focused on your goals?
I'll say yes and no. I think it's an opportunity.
Yeah.
I think that we're seeing kind of a renaissance of athletes in general that, where before, if you had a business, it was like, oh, you're doing such great things. Now we see professional athletes or what have you, and if they aren't making investments, if they aren't doing things off the field, we kind of look like, man, what are you waiting on? LeBron always says, and I worked at Spring Hill for a number of years, he keeps the main thing the main thing. And that is exactly how he does it. So everything that follows on and all the leverage that he has as an athlete and the business is all secondary to him being the best basketball player in the world. And I think that kind of duality and that multitasking is something that you have to learn to be successful, not only as an athlete, not only in business, but well beyond your years of playing.
Do you need support, though, for doing that? I mean, is it the leagues that need to step up and support athletes more, or do you just take it on yourself, Carli?
Yeah, I think you have to have good people in your corner who are directing you and navigating you through a challenging life right now. In my 17-year career, I would say half of it, there was no really big social media presence. And then the second half of it, there was. But what mattered the most for myself and for my teammates was when we step in between those lines, we're there to win. Now I feel like the younger generation, because of all the opportunity, because of all the social media presence, because of the NCAA changing their guidelines on athletes being able to earn money, you're seeing a little, some of them being skewed a little bit, where it's becoming more about how can I build my brand up, and a little less on maybe putting all your time and energy on being the best athlete that you can be. So it's a tricky situation. How do you take advantage of the opportunity, because there's way more opportunity that these generation of players are having than when we first started out. But you have to navigate it in a strategic way and be purposeful for it, because I've seen players who have kind of gone the whole social media route and trying to build their brand, but then they slip through the cracks on the field. So we are what we are because of how good we are on the field, and all that stuff kind of comes secondary.
At what point should athletes start thinking about their brand and how they're building their brand post-professional career?
I think that I don't think it's the right time. I always say that you have to take advantage of the opportunity within the life of the opportunity. And we came up with a slogan at Spring Hill Uninterrupted, more than an athlete, that has permeated through what we do over at the Status Pro side. But if you don't take advantage of it, it will take advantage of you. When you're done and everything is over, I tell athletes all the time, everybody is trying to send those emails at that point. Everybody's trying to reach out. Everybody's trying to say, hey, I'm looking for the next opportunity. You have to find that passion while you're playing so that your transition does become as easy as possible, because it's hard. It's tough. I mean, you put your life into a sport, you put your life into something. If you go to a certain level, you're talking a decade, 2 decades of this being who you are. There becomes like kind of an identity that's attached to it. And when it's gone, it's really, really hard to replace, unless while you were in the midst of it, you found out who you were, you built your brand, you found the other things you're passionate about, and you let the world know who you were as a person, because now when you get done, you realize that is not predicated on just whether you scored goals, touchdowns, three-pointers, or what have you.
Yeah. Carli?
Yeah, I'd say, it's probably different for everyone.
Yeah.
I have never tied my identity to soccer, although I have been Carli, the soccer player, for so long. When I go home and I'm with my husband and my friends and family, I'm just Carli. And I think that is an easier transition into the retirement life. But I think throughout my career, I started doing speaking events, and I hated them in the beginning and hated getting out on a stage and speaking in front of people. But I just kept doing them because I knew that was a life after soccer. And, it just became this thing where I've now grown to love speaking. Same thing with, running my own clinics. That's something that you can do post-playing career. So I think throughout that, just being the best version of myself and being authentic, my brand kind of organically just transpired. And now that I'm done playing, I'm kind of fresh off retirement this past November, it's been a little bit of an easier transition to figure out what I like, what I don't like. But I think kind of the sooner you can start to think about that and put the wheels in motion, the better off you're going to be.
And I wonder, too, given both of your vantage points and sort of what you've shared with us today, would you consider ownership, first of all, owning a team, being in the front office for a team? And do you think more people like yourselves maybe would benefit younger athletes, considering what you've gone through and what you've laid out right now?
I think experience is valuable, no matter where you put it. Yes, I would love to make enough money to be able to purchase a team, absolutely. And I think it would be a good thing just in general as, things evolve. And what it does is it forces everybody up. Like, for example, my older brother played in the NFL for 10 years. And at the time, it's, you have your agent fee that is 3%, and that's just negotiating contracts. Well, now in this world, with NIL, with marketing, with branding, with investments, I think agencies have had to kind of come to the table with a little bit more and say, okay, now this is what we're doing to get that 3%. So when you talk about ownership and if the experience that someone like a Carli has is valuable, absolutely. And what that does is it creates the opportunity for other, ownership groups or teams or companies to say, we need more Carlis, because there's going to be a competitive advantage for people who want to play and hear her experience and the things that she's gone through. So,
are we seeing that? Do you think we're seeing that enough?
I mean, on the women's side and women's soccer in general, we're seeing it a little bit more. Angel City here in LA, the NWSL, is their first year in the league. There are a ton of former soccer players who are part of that ownership group, so we are seeing it a little bit more. I just think it's, you know, it's a bridge from the ownership, the management side, you know, GM, to kind of link players and the management side together and figure out, you know, what is needed, how can you continue to make things better. So I do think there's definitely a valuable asset with having former players, you know, take on some ownership roles.
Was there that bridge when both of you were playing at all?
For me, not as much, I don't think. I think it was, you know, things have kind of been the status quo for a while in the sports that we play. Like, we pretty much know the formula. But it is exciting to see the game changing a little bit. I do think that there's going to be, you know, another renaissance of players that have done so much, like the LeBrons, like the Tom Bradys, that probably in a very short amount of time, you're going to see them owning professional teams, not just from the money that they were able to make as players, but what they were able to do off the field and kind of use their star power and business savvy to even make other companies more valuable.
Carli, would you be interested in?
I mean, I don't think the women's side is quite there to be owning teams. We got a long way to go. But, you know, you got to just keep on pushing on.
What would be sort of your hope for the next year, year and a half for women's teams, women's soccer, and given sort of the controversies that have been happening in the front office and, you know, with some of the players? Yeah,
I mean, you know, it's been sickening with all of the terrible press that the league's been getting. But I also think it's an opportunity to hit the reset button and really do things the right way and make things better. And, you know, every single player that's played in the league, past, current players, have deserved better. And so I'm hopeful that things will get turned around in the right direction. You know, we need more sponsors to come on board. We need more support from corporations, TV deals, all of that. So my hope is that we continue to get the support we need, and everybody involved. You know, we all need to push on to make this better, because it's just been, you know, really unacceptable what's been going on.
Yeah, and Hawk, I'd love for you to talk too about the NFL, especially considering what we've been hearing lately. How would sort of having more people like yourself in the front office maybe affect players and affect the success of the league?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. I don't know how it will affect players directly, but what I do know is there always has to be the opportunity for equal opportunity, right? Whether that's in the league or companies, even around sports, right? You talk about the game of football, it is, you know, 70% African American, and we've seen some of the headlines as of recently in the league. And I think for companies that are around that, whether it's football, basketball, women's soccer, like, you have to have the opportunity for them to also affect the game in other ways that are outside of the line. So even like at our company, Status Pro, my co-founder and CEO is a former athlete. It's something that we value, because I think for us, we were in situations where we didn't feel like we had opportunities. I was trying to, I say it multiple times, but there's a number of companies that I do business now with that I was trying to get entry-level internships with, that I couldn't get emails back, I couldn't get calls back from. And it wasn't to say I understand how it works and that I wasn't more deserving than the next person, but I did want to create a space to where there is value for people, you know, who have seen it at that level, understand it, and do have the duality to do something different and kind of change the game a little bit, and hope that the rest of the industry says, man, it'd be really cool to have that effect too. Maybe we are better if we give opportunities to players or people of color or women at higher rates than we're doing it at the moment.
Right. And I'd love for the two of you to just leave everybody with one piece of advice. I mean, young athletes who are maybe wanting to mimic sort of the success that you've had, what would be something that you would advise them?
You know, I think the world we live in right now, currently, very digital, very social media driven. It's hard. It's really hard. You get pulled in so many different directions. What I can say, speaking from experience, is best thing to do is be the most authentic self you can be. Be the best version of yourself. Treat people with kindness, respect. and just try to do good in the world. You know, I think that so many people are trying to be someone they're not, and we need to own who we are as individuals. We are all unique. We are all different. We all bring so many different things to the table, and just embrace that. Embrace whatever it is you're passionate about. Be your most authentic self, and just work really hard. That's what it comes down to.
I love that. My advice would be not to put limitations on yourself. Like, and that's athletes, that's anybody in general, because as we all know in this room, people are going to tell you all the time what you can't do. And you have to look at that and look for the opportunity in it, because they're wrong. You know, it's like the first this, the first that's not possible unless somebody says, I'm not going to let somebody limit what the expectation. Because you've never seen it before doesn't mean it's not possible. And so I tell young athletes, these are opportunities that you're given. And just because things haven't been done before, or, you know, a player hasn't done that, or, you know, so-and-so says you're better off doing this, they're going to tell you no. That's, honestly, you're built different for a reason, and your uniqueness is what's going to make you special, so that's what you have to drill into.
Totally. You guys are living examples of that. So, Carli, Hawk, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks,
everybody.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.